My name is Casey Alejo.
Hi, my name is Jaylene Acosta.
Hello, my name is Samantha Hilly. Do you want to know why we're qualified to teach?
Let us tell you.
We were in our costing class for a whole year.
Now, on to the intro.
Good morning, barristers. Today we are going to talk about market disequilibrium.
Don't you mean market equilibrium?
Good question, but no, I mean market disequilibrium. Before we do that, we're going to do some quick review on some of the last lessons that are integrated with this one.
Good, because I kind of forgot.
Can someone give me the definition of the law of demand?
Isn't it just the inverse relationship between price and quantity?
Yes, good job. Jaylene, do you think you could tell me what the definition of the law of supply is?
It's when the changes of price has an effect on the quantity of goods and services that the suppliers offer.
Wow, so happy to hear that you guys know some of the definitions. Now, two of the most important key factors are the shifters in supply and demand. Can anyone tell me what they are?
The shifters of demand are price-related goods, preferences and tastes, income, future expectations, and number of buyers.
And the shifter for supplies are number of producers, availability of resources, taxes and subsidies, future expectation, price, and technology.
Not quite. Can anyone tell me Jaylene's mistake when listing the shifters? Remember that price doesn't cause the curve to shift, but it's only a point that moves along the curve. Now that we covered the basics, let's go in and start some examples. Here we have our basic equilibrium graph with price on the y-axis and quantity on the x-axis. The supply curve is upward sloping while the demand curve is downward sloping, and an equilibrium is when supply and demand are in balance. Now let's say that a new company has started to produce good X, which is a cheaper substitute for good Y. How would the demand for good Y change?
The demand curve will shift to
Right.
No, the demand curve will shift to the right if it's increasing, but in this case, the demand curve is decreasing, therefore it will shift to the left.
Good job, girls. Now can anyone tell me what the shifter is?
I think it's a demand shifter of price-related goods.
Yes, great job.
But wouldn't that fall under taste and preferences?
No, it doesn't, because typically substitute and complementary goods fall under price-related goods.
Maybe if we did an example with taste and preferences, she would understand it better.
Great idea. How about you come up with a problem?
Okay, let's say there's a company that produces popcorn and a company that produces chips. If a recent study from the UCLA held discovered that eating popcorn makes you smarter than eating chips, most likely the demand for popcorn will increase and the demand for chips will decrease. This is because people are basing their preferences based on their opinion.
Oh, that makes sense. But how would the graphs look?
As you can see, this first graph is an equilibrium. It is the graph for popcorn. Because of the study at UCLA, what would happen to the graph?
It would move to the right?
Yes, that's correct. Since taste and preferences is the shifter, the demand for popcorn will increase. That means the demand curve will shift to the right. This would also mean that the demand for chips decreases based on the graphs.
What is the subsidy?
I don't know, ask.
I don't want to. What if everybody else knows and I look dumb?
You won't. Everyone is here to learn.
Yes, Jaylene?
What is a subsidy?
I'm really glad you asked, girls. A subsidy is money that is granted from the government to a business in order to keep the price low or competitive.
Thank you.
Now, let's begin by looking at supply shifters and some examples. I'm going to give you guys some problems and we'll work through them together. So, let's say McDonald's gets a better ice cream machine. What will happen to the curve? Well, first, you'd identify the shifter. Since this is supply, we know that the shifter is a change in technology. This is what the graph would look like. You can see that the supply curve increased and is shifted to the right because of the better technology. So there'd be an increase in supply. So now let's say that we're looking at the market for hamburgers. Hamburgers meat has now doubled in price. What will happen to the hamburger supply curve? First, we'll identify the shifter. The supply shifter would be availability of resources. The resource in this case is hamburger meat, because it's used to make hamburgers. Because of this, we know that the supply curve will shift to the left, because the supply will decrease.
What if there are two different shifters, one in supply and one in demand?
Great question. Yes, there are in fact scenarios where there can be shifters for both curves. In this case, if two curves shift at the same time, at least one is ambiguous. In this example, supply has shifted to the right, which means it's increased, and demand has shifted to the left, which means it's decreased. As you can see, the demand shift is that the price increases and the quantity decreases, while in the supply shift, the price decreases and the quantity increases. The final result of this double shift is that demand and supply both prices decrease, but their quantities are different. One decreases and one increases. So that leaves the quantity being ambiguous and indeterminate. Here's some quick review before we get into the quizzes.
Scenario. Due to perfect weather conditions, there is a larger than expected crop of oranges this year. The weather conditions do not affect the crops of tangerines. Citrus juice is made from either oranges or tangerines, and consumers have no preferences for one or another. Lastly, citrus juice and oatmeal are complements, and oats are required to make oatmeal. Scenario. Assume that only hamburgers are made from ground beef and that hot dogs and hamburgers are both perfect substitutes. Pickles are a complement for hamburgers, and mason jars are used to package pickles and jelly. Show what will happen in each market if the price of ground beef significantly increases.
Wait, don't all leave. Architecture's fun. Look, I brought a hacky sack.
Sorry I'm late, everyone. My name is Professor Cal Zanetti. This is Economics 305. You may return to your seats.
Sorry, sir. This is Architecture 101. Who invited their dad, right?
Young man, for the last 28 years, Economics 305 has been taught right here in Building 14, Room 7.
Yeah. Buddy, I'm sure 200 architecture students and the professor all got the room wrong.
T-Dog, you're in the wrong room, bro.
College kids.
Learning with Jamie, Casey,
and and Samantha.
We're glad you got to watch.
And we hope you learned a little something from these videos.
We'll see you next time in
AP Econ.